Good afternoon. This is Chapter 5 of our course, JavaScript and User Interaction. So as we continue to move along, you'll be doing more and more programming and interaction programming. So let's take a look. So again, we talked about this previously about how HTML event handlers enable the user to interact with a page. Like moving the mouse over an image, clicking a button to make something happen. So to get even greater control, we must be able to enter information into the page, such as words or grades for a course. Then be able to calculate those or to use those words to build a sentence or an order form on the internet. So that's where we're heading with all this. So you'll notice right off the bat that they talk about how to do this, and they're using an input type called text. The ID for this particular one that we're going to be looking at is box ID. It will have a num character. This will be the size of it. In other words, you can make the size of the box, the letters in it, like 12 is a good standard. And then you can have a preset value in there. Most do not. Most of the time you'll see them blank, but today I did see that in several of the websites I went to look at some stuff and to do some searches. This way, the user can enter text directly into the box, and so the JavaScript will get that information out of that box. And notice this here, dot value says to get the value that's inside that box, whatever you have typed. So here's a nice simple one to start with. Please type this in. It'll continue to give you practice in typing in the JavaScript language, as well as you walk through this, you can see up here's our greeting, and it shows up right there. But here, this word greeting is set at an H2, not an H1 or an H3, but they picked 2, and it shows up here. Then this literal right here, they started a new paragraph. You see here and here is now a paragraph, here and here, or paragraph, and they say enter your name, and we see that right there. Again, the input type is text. They gave it a name called name box. They said, hey, we want it to be a size 12, and it has no default value. In other words, it appears blank. Then here, they do an input type button, and it has a default value of click for greetings, and you see it right there. So now once you click, and that's the onClick command, equals, and they're taking, excuse me, some information they have with the information you are putting in to create something new. Here they start with hello plus. Now this command is a concatenation command, and it takes the name box value, which we said was this guy right here, and it concatenates it with welcome to my page. We have a line break. Do you mind if I call you? Then we go back and we're getting that value again. with a question mark added. So when you do all that, this is what appears. The person typed in the name Dave. They hit the click for greeting and they get a hello Dave. See, there's that you typed in. Welcome to my page, a line break. Do you mind if I call you Dave? So they go back and get it again. So that's what this little program application did. Now this is very basics, but it shows you using the on click command, button command, the concatenation command, all built into one. Very nice one to play with and to go in. I would suggest when you type this one in, go in and play with changing that to a 14 and see what happens, or maybe an 18 to really make it show up. You can even change the name of the command here, what I'm calling a box right there. But be sure if you do that, that you make sure that you have changed the name here and here as well. Now this is a much larger one. Yes, go ahead and type it in. And notice they gave it a different name here. They gave the second one a different name. And there's a third one in there also, type box, date box. And so they kept the word box, but they gave different first command names. And you need to do that because you can see each one of these is different. And when you come down here, you want to use the recipient box here. Then you heard of the activity that's happening here. And then here's the date box that you use. So they're concatenating all this together to form this paragraph here, okay? Now notice here in the corner what they did, kind of cute, making it more like a letter, and they go in and they use the text align right. And once they do that, they're now able to align it, and they simply push all that over. So you must use special care, and here's where they begin to talk about enclosing some things in quotes and others not enclosed. Now what I would do if you're concerned about this is you can actually take on the page itself in your book, and with pencil do what I'm doing in red. There's the equals, the double quote sign, and then you have a single quote here, here. Notice you got them in here. And see, this is where things get real tricky a lot of times. You got them here, and you got them here. Is that you got to be sure to put these in the correct place. And then, of course, the concatenation command is here by itself. Notice that they put all of this here with some quotes here and a comma. And you can type all this on a single line if you want to. But what you want to see is what it appears like in the actual output, because the computer's not going to care about the fact that you put in a carriage return here. Use the direct assignments. to get values. Like here, this particular command, the width is 100. You can see how they're doing that. You can do a variable like username, then Dave in quotes like that will be here. So what they're trying to show you, and the only way this really makes sense is for you read it, do it, read it again, okay? Again, I would suggest you read the summary of the chapter, then read the chapter, then go back through and do all of the all of the exercises, and don't wait till the night for the assignments to do to try to figure out what's going on. Another thing you need to know, variables, you will start using more and more variables that you make up the variable names. And pretty much can be any sequence of letters, digits, underscore, as long as they start with a letter. You cannot start with a digit or an underscore. You can't have 7 dogs, but you can have dog 7. Dog underscore 7 you can have. 7, can't have 7 underscore dogs. It says cannot start with a digit. Now, every language, whether it's C, C++, Python, whoever, has what they call reserved words. Right here they are. Here are the reserved words that we cannot use as variables. These are used to tell the JavaScript language certain things we want done immediately, or certain things are like a character type here, character or a class, which is something else. But you tell them that, or that you want something to be a Boolean type. So variables you'll start using more and more. They simplify your coding. Maybe you need to use a certain variable in a half dozen places. By assigning the value to that variable, then you can use it and not have to reassign it every time. And comes in extremely useful when you're doing works with fill in the blank stories or phrases. So simple things that tends to trip us up. Remember, text boxes allow the user to enter phrases or words at the click of a button. The box contents are assets, and then they're stored into variables. So here's very examples of them doing var1. That's a shortcut a lot of times you'll see in languages. They'll call it var1, var2, so we have an understanding. You should not call it var1 or var2, just for simple reason, what is var1? Give your variable a name that makes sense, something that you understand what it is. More of that later weeks. Now here's a good example of doing again a click on click. We're going to simply swap the happy face to be a sad face, and you can see everything you need to know. You've done something like this before, but this is a good one to type in. Notice they are accessing the web page here, so be sure you're on the internet when you do this. Data types. Every language has a series of data types that they will use, such as strings, number, booleans. A boolean is either true or false, 1 or 0. Numbers. Come on. But anyway, when you have strings, though, you can get the strings to concatenate using the plus sign. So the beauty of that is if you have a couple different variables and they have different words in them, then you can put those together to form a sentence. With numbers, you want to use your standard add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Please remember your order of operations. They apply in programming just like they do with pencil and paper. So here's an example where we took two variables, howdy and do, and we concatenated them to make howdy do. So now we've made it into a phrase. We could call it catchphrase 1, something weird like that. Here, though, what we did is we want the numbers 50 and 4. We want to divide 4 into 50 and come up with a number 12.5 and assign that to that variable. Just like we're assigning these two to one variable. In our case, this variable is called phrase. So here we are assigning the number 24 to X, or as they say in the book, X gets, okay, not equal, but gets. There's totally different in programming the word equals. So it's better to say X gets the value of 24. Same thing here, Y gets the results of 100 times 10 plus 24. Now, we know that the variable X is 24 because we made that assignment. They could have simply said here 100 times 10 plus X and got the same answer. But anyway, Y has a value of 1024 they show over here. So now we want to say X gets the value of Y, which we remember is 1024 minus 1. X now has the value of 1023. We haven't lost the value of Y, 1024. It's still there. We just now have X got the value of 1023. Y retains the value of 1024. Now, to show really large numbers, we use what is called scientific notation. And so we won't see a lot of that in our class, but you just need to know that that's what it does. So if you go beyond the bounds of what JavaScript can do, which is 64 bits, then you will get either an infinity, or you will get, if you're going in the negative RAM, which we can if we're doing below freezing with Kelvin and stuff like that in science, you'll get 0, which is not what you wanted. Normally 17 significant digits is what we're able to represent. I have been involved with programs on certain mid-sized computers, what was called mid-frame computers, that was important. It was important because we were calculating electric usage, and that was important to be that precise. Care must be taken, of course, when assigning assessing numbers from text. Now remember, what happens is when you enter a number, you're entering into a text box. So we have to reassign that, and we access it a certain way. So in this case, someone entered 12 into a box, and then they had an alert message up here where they took my number, which was 12, and they added 1 to it. Well, that's the mistake. They did not add 1 to it. They concatenated 1 to it. So 12 concatenated 1 is 121. Again, all this was thinking in terms of a string or text, not numbers. So they explained that to us. And so we need to use a mechanism that will convert this stuff for us. Then they go off on another tangent before they get to what they really wanted to tell us. And that is, here the value is text or a string, as we call it. But by using this command right here, added to our value. So basically they put parentheses. Look closely, they left out for parentheses. But anyway, what they've done is it's this command right here that you need. That's a new command. This will take this 123 and treat it like you wanted it to be treated, and that is a number. So here they really get involved in doing this right. And so type this one in and get it to run. Make sure, let's see, here they have here and here match, here and here match. So a while ago where they left off the one on the end on the previous slide, they put it in here correctly. So here you've got an input type box. We're calling it an amounts box. We have it set for size 10. We have no preset value. And so they're simply asking you enter the check amount. So it was a $42.50 check. Now the tip at 15%, you should be doing 20 now, by the way. We come down here and we're looking at on click. The amount will equal, now see, by using this command right here, we now are getting the numeric value of what was entered. And once we do that, it will do a calculation for you and print out a literal plus tip, because we made a variable here called tip, which was the amount, which is what we put that variable as right here, amount times 15 divided by 100, which will now equal your tip. And so here's what your tip should be. Now notice one thing I don't like that they didn't go into is how do you format 2 digits past the right of the decimal. That's something I would recommend you look up in W3 schools. You can also do a Google on it. It'll tell you how you'll go in and you add some code here on the tip amount, or you can even add it up here at this point. You can add it here, or you can add it here, and that's a formatting command to make that read something like $6.38. Looks a lot cleaner than having this other extended. So common things we see, you see text boxes, we see at the click of a button, we see the parafloat is applied to convert numbers. We've seen storing into values. We've seen computation. And so anyway, you're getting there. Again, good generic stuff here on the code. So many of y'all now know about bugs, and these are errors in your program. I've mentioned grammatical errors a lot of times. Initially the word bug comes about from Admiral Grace Hopper, female. She is the founder, writer, developer of COBOL. She's also the one accredited with using or finding the first bug in a computer and calling it that. And it literally was a moth that had flown inside one of the big mainframe computers and shorted things out. And so the word bug comes from the work by Grace Hopper. So normally every language will talk about three types of error: a syntax error, which is you're forgetting a quote, or you're misspelling something, you haven't matched up the spelling of two different variables. Then you have what is called runtime errors, and attempting to multiply a string or divide by 0. These are also caught by the browser. You'll get some stuff like this. So these are real common, and more of the advanced languages like C, C++, C num, which are compiled language, the compilers are getting smarter and smarter, and they can point to the misspelling, especially if the variable has been spelt one way, then you spell it a different way. It can question you that. We don't have that. The other is and the hardest is a logic error. Your logic for solving the problem is flawed. So I'm sorry, that's the gray matter between your ears, and that's the hardest one to correct. A logic error might fall into, we lost a landing vehicle at Mars because half of the scientists were using the metric system, the other half were using the American system. When it got to landing on Mars, the two systems did not know how to talk. So it was giving it commands in the metric system, which was totally wrong for landing on the surface of Mars, so it crashed. That's why you pick one and go with it. I go with the metrics, but that's me. More and more, If you're doing stuff for the military, you're doing stuff with NASA, you'll see the metric systems are required. More and more in doing international business, it's the metric system. We're having to change for the rest of the world.